Good morning and welcome to Newsmakers. For over 2 years it has been possible. For a year it has been within months. In February it was expected but not promised before opening day. For the last 3 weeks it has been within days, sometimes within hours. All that was missing was the signature of general partner Marge Schott. Well, it finally happened. On Wednesday, July the 1st, the county commissioners and officials of the Cincinnati Reds gathered in the Crosley Room at Synergy Field to announce the signing of a memorandum of understanding. As expected, the new stadium will be built on the riverfront, on what is officially known as Baseball on Main, or what is popularly known as the Wedge.
As this debate's been going on for nearly 2 years now, there have been a lot of people who have said, put it here or put it there, but the overwhelming sentiment, especially lately, has been just get it done. And I'm excited because today we are here to announce that, in fact, we have gotten it done. The other thing that people said is when you do get it done right. And we spend a tremendous amount of time and energy getting to a memorandum of understanding. And in that MOU, that lays out a set of assumptions, not just about a stadium, but about some of the things that will go on in an environment around the stadium.
I'm so glad that we have finally arrived at a memorandum of understanding toward a new stadium for the Cincinnati Reds. The important thing is to go forward and build the best Major League Baseball stadium in existence. Being the oldest team in Major League Baseball, I feel the Reds should have the best. I'm confident with the hard work of the Reds, support of our fabulous fans, and cooperation from local government officials, the fans will soon have a wonderful stadium, baseball and all of us can be very proud of.
By the terms of that agreement, a new stadium will be built on the Wedge site. It will have approximately 45,000 seats, 3,000 club seats, 51 luxury boxes, and 3,500 parking spaces. In the Memorandum of Understanding signed on Wednesday, the Reds agree to pay $30 million of the construction cost for the stadium, as well as $2.5 million a year in rent for 9 years. The Reds also agree to play at the new stadium for 30 full seasons after construction of the stadium has been completed. The Reds will be responsible for the ongoing operations and maintenance costs, but the county will contribute $500,000 a year to that fund. To talk about what has been achieved by this agreement and what still needs to be worked out in the months ahead, I am joined this morning by two of the principals. For 3 years, Bob Bedinghaus has led the county's effort to create a funding vehicle and then negotiate agreements with the Bengals and the Reds. John Allen is the acting general manager of the Cincinnati Reds and the day-to-day point person for the organization in negotiating through this process. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Glad to be here, Dan.
Good morning.
Bob, you've been here before to talk about this issue. How do you feel this morning?
Well, yesterday or earlier this week was a great
We might as well
day.
tell people. We're taping this on Thursday, so it happened yesterday.
Okay, yesterday was a great day, I think, for the residents of this area. Not just Cincinnati, not just northern Kentucky, but the greater Cincinnati region. You know, we've been dealing with this issue for a couple of years now. Obviously, the Bengals moved a little quicker than the Reds did. But in the grand scheme of things, if you look at where we were in March of 1996 and where we are likely to be in April of the year 2003, and all of the changes that are going to occur in this community, we are truly a community on the move and an envy of cities our size.
John, for the Reds, concretely, what does this agreement mean for you?
I think it's twofold. First of all, in the industry we're in, and that's Major League Baseball, we are what's known as a small market team. And it's becoming more and more evident that in order for the small market teams to succeed, we have to have a vehicle to generate the revenues to give us a chance to compete with the larger markets in, say, Atlanta and New York and Baltimore, those type of places. What this new stadium will do for us is give us that vehicle to at least give us a better chance or opportunity to be able to compete with those type of markets. Secondly, what it ensures for us and our fans is that by signing a 30-year lease, we're going to be here for a long time. We've felt strongly all along we do belong in Cincinnati, and this 30-year lease will ensure our fans that we're going to be here for a long time and hopefully be able to compete and put a competitive team on the field for that period of time.
You know, there's a lot of parts to this agreement, and as Bob and others have pointed out to us many times, it wasn't just about site. It was about the financial package that the Reds were able to work out. It was about a lot of things.
Sure.
But site is what the public focused on.
Right.
And you know better than I do even, there was a lot of sentiment out there, not for this site, but for Broadway Commons. And there was sentiment for this site as well, obviously. From the club's point of view, why this site? Not in a theoretical way, but especially as the wedge has been worked out. Why this site?
Again, I mean, that's a very complex question and something we've I've tried to answer many times. First of all, we've been on the riverfront for the last 26, 27 years, and we've had a great deal of success there. We've been successful. We've continually drawn a great number of fans. And again, people have to remember, as Bob indicated, we are a regional team. We don't draw just from Cincinnati. We couldn't survive on what we draw just from Cincinnati. It's that regional concept. And those people know where the river is. They come to see the river, and the Reds have been here for a long time, and we're going to be here for a much longer period of time. So I guess we've had a great deal of success there. But secondly, when we looked at the alternative sites, and we had an open mind, and we looked at some alternative sites.
Let me push on that one.
Okay.
Did you really have an open mind to Broadway Commons? Did you ever do a real study of Broadway Commons?
We did just as much study and analysis and looking as anywhere else. I mean, we looked at it. We met with, I know I personally met with Jim Tarbell on several occasions to look at it. I met with some of the people that own some of the property in that area. And
what were your biggest problems with that site?
A couple things. One is just the actual physical size of that site. The fact that, as you look at it, and one of the people that we talked to and worked with actually took what we call paw prints of existing stadiums and tried to put it in that location, and they absolutely would not fit without some major things that would result in either no parking or parking that was the view out of the stadium was parking. So I think a combination of the smallness of that site when you try to get a true baseball stadium in there, and then parking, those two factors intermingled caused a great deal of problems for that location.
We have a little, and before you chime in on that, we have a little videotape of showing some of the models of the site that has been adopted in this memorandum of agreement, and you can see them here. But Bob, John just raised the question of size of Broadway Commons. What we've heard a lot about, and what we're seeing in these drawings right now, is the question of the size of the wedge, or baseball on Main, that this is the one where the size was the problem. How do you answer that? And seeing the models in front of us right now.
Well, the baseball on Main site, and that's what we call it, baseball on Main. We don't call it the wedge site, but the baseball on Main site obviously has some construction challenges to it. There's no doubt about that. But if you go back and look, a lot of the memorable ballparks in this country are memorable because they were built on unique sites. Now John touched on some of the concerns he had about Broadway Commons. I don't view this as we had one good site and one bad site. I think Broadway Commons was a wonderful place to put a ballpark. Looking up into Mount Adams would have been a wonderful view. I happen to think that the 3.5 million visitors that baseball is going to bring to this community when they're selling out every game are better placed on our riverfront and secure more development for this downtown business district there than they would if you take them out of what we're trying to create on the riverfront and put them at Broadway Commons. Now, Jim Tarbell, the Broadway Commons supporters deserve a lot of credit for making Broadway Commons something, and it will be something because of their support.
But on the site itself, I mean, it's one thing to call this site unique, and that other great stadiums have been built on unique sites, but this is a site that has some real constraints. Not only the squeeze, and I know it's baseball on Main, it's not the wedge, but but also the fact that from a construction point of view, because the way you have to do this, you're going to have to bring construction materials onto that site, on and off that site, in some very difficult patterns from a construction point of view.
Well,
I mean, you do have some problems here, right?
Without a doubt. There are challenges ahead of us. However, if you're talking about construction staging, typically that happens at the field. When Paul Brown Stadium starts to come up out of the ground, the construction staging where they put all the material is going to be where the football field is going to be, and they can build out from there. The exact same thing can happen at a baseball park, and that's what typically happens is you stage your material inside the ballpark because you're not growing the grass yet, and then you build from the inside. But I don't want to downplay at all the challenges that are ahead. I think the challenges include a timely completion of Fort Washington Way, which appears to be on pretty good schedule. And it also, one of the biggest challenges, I think, is incorporating this new ballpark into the Crown, which is the neighbor immediately to the east.
Right.
You know, it wasn't but just a couple of years ago where people thought we ought to tear the Crown down and do without it. Now, with some private development, they've made the Crown into something, and I think incorporating the new ballpark into the Crown is something we need to be paying a lot of attention to.
Let's be clear about this. What we got on Wednesday was a memorandum of understanding. There's still a lot of work to be done here. John, what has to happen, if I understand this correctly, between this same stage with the Bengals and the lease agreement with the Bengals was about 6 months, and it was the end of that where we got that really ugly fight between city and county. What has to happen with the Reds?
Well, I mean, some of the things are similar. I mean, in that you know, we'll immediately or very shortly start working on a lease, a very binding lease and so forth. Those efforts will start shortly. In addition, we are going to go ahead and with the county's help, and actually with the county as the lead, we'll be sending out what they call RFQs to hire architects and construction people to actually begin a feasibility study of that site.
And let's be clear, the drawings we've seen so far of the possible stadium on baseball at Maine, those aren't by architects who have any authority to actually develop the final drawings, right? Those are just speculation.
Exactly.
So
That's correct.
what actually turns out could be different.
Could be somewhat different, right? I mean,
Right, it will be different. Let's
Right.
be clear.
Yeah.
I mean, the images that Mike Schuster, a local architect, has put out there are wonderful images, but that will not be what we build.
What about the question of where it actually is? There were rumors going around in the days before this that what was holding up the final signing was that maybe the Reds, maybe Mrs. Schott, wanted to push this down closer to the river's edge, which would have cut off east-west access, and the park people were all out of joint about that. How much flexibility, how big is this site? Because with the Bengals, we had 4 different options on the site. How much flexibility do we have there, John?
I mean, what we want to get in there is the best baseball stadium in existence with a great riverfront view and so forth. We're flexible. The Cincinnati Reds are certainly flexible to work within that land space that we'll open up. And we'll leave a lot of that to the experts, the engineers, and the architects to give us the best ballpark that will you know, be in that space and so forth. So we're flexible.
Yeah. So there is give here.
Here's the tension. The tension is close to the river, which gives you maybe a better view of the riverfront, versus the tension of bringing it closer up to a new 2nd Street, which brings it closer to the downtown area.
In the business district.
In the business district. That's for the engineers, that's for the consultants to tell us. You know, John does a real good job managing a baseball club. We do a reasonably good job at the county running government. This is for the experts and the consultants that build ballparks to tell us what works best.
One final thing, and we're going to run out of time. And Bob, there's a petition, and we're going to be talking to Jim Tarbell in the second part of the show. Your point about this petition is not that it's not just about Broadway Commons and the wedge site, baseball in Maine. It's about something else, right? In 30 seconds, what's your point on this petition?
This petition is bad government. Changing the form of government we've had in Hamilton County for the last 195 years over where we locate a ballpark is bad government. Now, say what you want about where you want a ballpark, whether you want the Broadway Commons or you want it down on the riverfront. What you're talking about in this petition here is changing the form of county government. And that is a much broader issue than where you happen to locate
And
a
just
ballpark.
to be clear, my understanding is the reason you have to change this, because right now the only things you can take to referendum are issues around taxes and zoning.
That's
and
correct.
since this is different, the only way you can get it on the ballot is to change the form of government and go to charter.
Yeah, this community has been through this discussion before. Back in the 1960s with
Right.
the Lingle Commission, back in the 1980s it was attempted. And I think even the people that support county charter government are very nervous about it being forced forward on this issue alone.
I want to give you a chance to talk to that. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. I am sure over the next 6 months or so there's going to be other opportunities to get down to the details, and I hope you'll come back.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a done deal. The Reds will go to the riverfront, right? Some Broadway Commons true believers refuse to raise the white flag. Stay tuned. After the break, we'll try to find out if their proposed referendum is a plan or just a lot of talk. Welcome back. As county and Reds officials have claimed they were closing in on an agreement over the last few months, supporters of the Broadway Commons site have become more strident in their insistence that the wedge site will be a disaster for the community and for the team. Undeterred by the impending memorandum of understanding, the Broadway supporters have launched a petition drive to put the question before the voters this November. The petition drive is led by longtime City Council member Todd Portune and Jim Tarbell, Cincinnati's newest council member, who joins us this morning.
Good morning.
I mentioned on the first part of the show, we usually try to pretend this is live on Sunday morning, that we're actually doing this on Thursday. This is less than 24 hours being a city council person, and in fact, we're going to spend some time about other issues than Broadway Commons.
Right.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
And gee, it just comes a few months late, I guess. You know, they recounted the votes, and there you are.
That's it.
Jim, this petition.
Yeah.
There's two issues, according to Bob Bedinghaus, and he talked about this a little bit when he was on the show this morning, that, as I understand it, in order to get this on the ballot, to get the Broadway question on the ballot, because it does not deal with either taxes or zoning, you had to put it on as a charter reform.
Correct.
And that, from Bob's point of view, is a serious question. This is not just about a stadium site. What do you say to that?
It means that the county commissioners can put other things on the ballot if they wish. But it means that everything, whatever you put on the ballot, still has to be voted on. They can't do anything by decree, so it doesn't change that in any way, shape, or form. And the spirit of this, I mean, so many things depend on the spirit of the interpretation. And I guess that there are always opportunities for abuse in any situation. And in this case, I guess if the county commissioners wanted to step outside the boundaries and abuse the system using this, they could do that.
Well, you know, let's be clear. A lot of people have pushed for a local rule county charter for a long time and have proposed all sorts of reforms, you know, getting rid of voters electing the county engineer and some of these positions, and bringing more control under the county commissioners on budgets. Like Cy Lease right now, you know, he has an Army, Navy, and Air Force because the county commissioners can't control his budget. Would you like to see those kind of changes? Did you talk to the people, or was this just a technicality for you?
Pure and simple. We felt that this ought to be a countywide vote, a countywide opportunity, and this was pure and simply the only way to do it.
Okay.
And the language is very clear that the county commissioners, there's a sentence in here that says they shall have no extra legislative authority under this charter.
Okay.
That pretty much takes care of it, at least according to the legal advice that we're getting, people that are familiar with this kind of legislation. So it's pure and simply, you're voting on the site, the location of the ballpark, pure and simple. If it ever comes about that you have a true home rule charter, that carries with it a whole big box of language and descriptions of what that means if you go to this step you're talking about. Right. This is not.
Let's get back to the stadium issue.
Right.
On Wednesday, the Reds and the county signed a memorandum of understanding. Is this over now, or do you think it's not over and this petition could still change things?
It is in no way over under the circumstances. They call it the wedge for a reason. And I think, to jump ahead here a second, I think what's going on is just a delaying tactic so that there's more time to figure something else out. No single professional independent authority has recommended the wedge. Only one has even acknowledged that it could happen, and those are people that are on the county's payroll, HOK architects, and have been for several years. Anything can happen given enough time and enough money, but you know what's reasonable.
If they're delaying, what are they delaying for? What is the option?
There are several things, and who knows exactly what's going on here. Some of the people representing Reds ownership confided in me, at least 4 years, maybe almost 5 now, that Jim, whatever happens doesn't make any difference. It's going to end up at Synergy. Well,
a
here we are.
remodeled
A remodeled
synergy or a
synergy.
rebuilt synergy?
Remodeled synergy, and the Reds pocket the difference. And that was the goal 4 years ago. Well, I don't think they knew what they were going to be getting into in terms of the grassroots opposition to that kind of idea. And I thought they would have rethought that and thrown it out by now. This leads me to believe that maybe it's back on the table. So we get all tired, we're even more exhausted and anxious than we are now. And so it comes back that we're going to remodel synergy, and there'll be some money left over, and so we give that to the Reds, and everybody goes, oh, well, get it over with. That's been my fear for some time. Second thing is, I don't think the county ever wanted to really make a deal with the Reds. This was about the Bengals in the first place, and they made that deal, so what's the problem? You know, we've got that solved. The Reds aren't going to leave. I think everybody realizes that. All the tax money being collected, the interest on the tax money goes into the county general fund. It doesn't go into the ballpark fund. So they get to spend it for whatever they want to, and that's ongoing.
Let's be careful. Any evidence that they are spending it for anything other than?
It will be spent for things other than ballparks. Absolutely. It goes into the general fund. They don't take money out of the general fund to go into ballparks. Only the tax money goes into the ballparks. But the interest ongoing right now from that tax money goes into the general fund.
Okay. Practical question. How many signatures do you need and by when? And, you know, you're going to get them?
Well, 26,000 technically, and probably 40 are better to allow for the ones that don't make it.
Okay. Let's shift gears here a little bit. You're now a member of City Council. Why?
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
People need to understand, you know, why do you hammer away at this? Did you see Titanic?
Yes.
Everything goes to one end and finally it sinks. It's been on one end for the last 30 years downtown. The riverfront 4th Street, maybe a little bit to 5th Street. The rest of the town, the rest of downtown is nothing's been done up here. And there are 225 vacant buildings north of Central Parkway. There aren't any vacant buildings down the riverfront. We just threw them out. We just vacated them. The ones that were doing business, we threw out to put the football field in. What kind of mentality is it that continues to feed that and not bring it back and balance out the...
But to play devil's advocate,
yeah.
What if you build these two stadiums, wedge site, okay, and then you do the park plan and you create this beautiful front door for the city?
The amount of time and energy and money that's going to take, this will be gone or severely compromised. And this is what we have right now. Uptown is what we have right now. Finish that. For the relatively small amount of money it'll take versus this, let's finish that, and I think we make a better decision as to what goes on the river from this.
Well, you're now on City Council.
Yeah.
Can you do both?
That's part of the reason for going to City Council.
Can you, while the county's doing the riverfront, can you do Uptown?
Well, the county doesn't do the riverfront. They're doing ballparks only. That's their responsibility, and that's where it ends. And the city has the responsibility for the rest of it. I just go nuts thinking about what we're going to have to deal with all that confusion and the expense, and the money isn't there for that. The money is not there to get us out of that hole that we're going to create with this confusion. It's not there. We're going to have to pass another tax levy or do something extraordinary to get that money. So, but in answer to your question about doing something uptown, of course, I mean, that's one of my main goals, is to try to get uptown from, you know, above 5th and 6th Street, especially up above the Parkway and over the Rhine and over to West End, and get that back on stable ground. You know, it's been languishing now for 3 decades.
Well, we're just about out of time, and we didn't get to all those other issues, but we'll have plenty of time for that. Now that you're an elected official, or almost an elected official, I'll bet you want to come back some point. Thank you very much. We'll follow this, and we'll follow you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week and meet the men and women who are shaping our community for the future.